Hi everyone, I am doing a quick check-in video just to talk about the ones that we're meant to find. I referenced this book a few times. It's one of my most recent on my to be read or my TBR list. And I'm kind of going through a reading slump as much as I don't want to admit it. That's exactly what I'm going through. And as much as I hate to say it, I think this book is a contributing factor, but not because I think it's badly written, but I think it just, I just think I'm not the target audience for it. There's just certain books that I should know right off the bat will not be to my taste or reading style. And a lot of this book is heavily centered on kind of like hypotheticals in a sci-fi, a post-apocalyptic type setting. I'm not really a big fan of sci-fi reads. I do read fantasy, and there are some fantasy, both young adult and adult, that I have really loved and enjoyed. But when it veers into the sci-fi kind of sphere, I typically will have a harder time in being engaged with it. And unfortunately, I think this book kind of falls victim to that. I'm still not giving up on it because there is elements of it that I do enjoy. I think I've summarized the book before briefly, but it stars two sisters, C and K. They're separated, and at the beginning of the story, we're not really given much information as to why they're separated. But what we do know off the bat is one sister, Kay, lives in an eco society in the future. And the eco society kind of lives above sea level. So they're in the sky because of natural disaster and just a general breakdown of the environment on Earth has made it uninhabitable. So they have this ecosystem, this eco society to kind of alleviate some of the human footprints and to kind of conserve what is left of the planet. And it's to be a society that's kind of run by virtual reality. A lot of the citizens, if not all the citizens, have embedded chips inside their skulls. They have these kind of virtual assist apps that exist within the mind. They can regulate their mood. They're giving warnings about different physiological responses within the body. They stay in stasis pods to kind of alleviate, again, their footprint in the environment. They can use holographic images of themselves to appear in classes or appear in other places. It sounds all really cool, but there's just so much detail, and you tend to get lost in the K's chapters because it is dual POV. So you have the POV of K and you have the POV of C. Now C, the sister, is trapped on an island. We don't know how she got on the island, but what we do know is that she is colorblind, she has amnesia, and she is trying to get back to K, and vice versa. And she's trying to build a boat or some structure of some sort that she can get back onto sea, get back into the sea, and get back to her sister. So I've read further along, and I am at chapter 14, 162 pages in, and quite a lot has happened since from the initial premise. While on the island, this is kind of going into spoiler territory. C actually encounters a boy who ends up washed up on a shore, and he too is suffering from amnesia, doesn't know who he is, doesn't know his name, and doesn't know why he's there. C, at least in her time on the island, has a vague sense of where she came from before. She definitely knows that she has a sister, and she knows that whatever had happened to her was pretty traumatic. And she gets kind of splices of memories slash nightmares here and there in color, even though she's colorblind and mostly sees in black and white during the day. And there's recent events that happen once she discovers the boy on the island, and you start to kind of piece things together, which makes it really interesting. So I find C's chapters and her point of view keeps me hooked to the overall story. So as much as I'm not really into sci-fi, and I find the sci-fi chapters which features Kay to be so dense that it kind of takes me out the story, and it kind of inadvertently ends up putting me into like a reading slump. But there's a part of me that refuses to give up on the book because I just think it's such an interesting premise, and there are some questions that keep coming up that I can't tell if I'm just not getting it because I'm not smart enough to get it, or if it's intentionally being vague and there is some red herring and some misdirections that we're purposely being given as readers so we don't pick up on the twists that's supposed to happen. Because K's chapters are told in like third person, and C's chapters, the sister that's stranded on the island, is told in first person, which I find was interesting. The way that the chapters are marked to me is also a clue as to what's happening, and the way the narrative is, I feel like we're reading two different timelines. Because the way the story first presents itself, you think that both sisters, everything is happening simultaneously, but the more I read, it seems like it's not, which may be a spoiler in it itself, but I haven't read farther enough yet, and I'm just at a point where I just don't want to give up. So for anybody that's potentially looking into getting into this book, if you're into sci-fi and from whatever that I've said so far you find intriguing, I would say give the book a shot. But if you're kind of iffy on sci-fi and you're not into slow burn books, this may not be for you.